With the general elections mere months away, much attention is being paid, of course, to coalitions, especially those working to unseat the ANC. Less focus, however, has been given to the actual voters, who are the ones truly holding the power. Now, among these voters are the eligible youth in South Africa. They're not shy to give their opinions on social media platforms, but will they make the X that matters come 2024? See what I did there? Let's talk some more about these very important issues with Siphesihle Dube, Chief Strategy and Communications Officer at the Groundwork Collective, who joins us virtually from Cape Town. Siphesihle, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Will they make the X that matters? And according to the work and the research that you and your team are doing, that with the youth making up almost 70% of the population, you have found that it is more likely that a young person in South Africa will actually go and vote if they are registered in the first place. What is some of the feedback you're getting around that connection with registration and actually going to vote?
Yeah, good evening to you and good evening to your viewers. That said, we have a lot of data that we've been exploring, that we have looked into from various experts in the field, as well as contemporary data from across the world that tells us that once young people are activated in the first instance, and we are talking about the near 14 million young people that have no previous political allegiance, that are new to the system and have often opted out, once they're activated in an encouraging way, in an exciting way, in a way that makes democracy relevant and tangible to them, we have seen in research that over 85% of them are likely to show up and cast their vote for the very first time in the upcoming election. So that is at the very core of our work that we're trying to do, is to do exactly that, is to excite a new cohort of young people that are not tainted by the daily politic currently as it exists, and have, as I said, no real political allegiance in the past. And we're trying to get them excited about participating, not just in elections and voting, that's an important thing to do, but also participating, taking back what is essentially their democracy and how it works, and being active and a participant in the democratic process.
I often find that when we have these conversations, we make the big mistake of talking about the youth as a homogenous group. And as with many parts of South Africa, that is just not the case. We're talking about a vast cross-section of South Africa's population, some rural, some urban, some speak certain languages, some are highly educated, some not, blue collar, not blue collar, and the list goes on. But the golden thread is that you're dealing with a part of the population that wants to be connected with, that wants to be spoken about in a way that respects them and their views, and not spoken down to. Are any political parties getting that right now?
Well, look, as you said, young people across the board are not a monolith by any means. And I would argue to say that no South Africans really are a monolithic group at all. You know, I think they behave differently. What is very true and common about their behavior, you'll notice in a lot of political rhetoric, there's suggestions that young people are apathetic. That is not true. You know, we found that that is not the case. Young people are active. They are very vibrant. And you're noting that they're vibrant on social media, but they're vibrant elsewhere. What is happening is that they've opted out of the formal democratic process. That's what's happening. They are engaging and activating themselves elsewhere in other places. Our work to safeguard democracy and keep democracy legitimate is to keep them engaged in this process and show them through practical means how the democratic process as it is and the systems can work for them and can empower them to make their lives better. Your question about political parties doing that currently, I mean, I guess the proof is in the pudding. You know, at some point we will know, and we know from previous data that that has not been the case. A situation where 14 million young people are unregistered and not participating in the political system is a staggering number. It's a staggering number for this country, and it's a staggering number for any other democracy in the world. So that alone, those numbers alone should tell you something about where we are in terms of the status quo.
It's so funny. Just before our conversation, I watched a video on Twitter from a popular breakfast DJ, and he's done a TikTok explaining why it's important for young people to vote. And he makes the same point as you, saying, everybody wants to say that, young people aren't interested in democracy and all of the things that you've just mentioned. But he then makes a point of breaking down why it's important that he includes himself, because we're talking about a youth that's up to 35 years old. I believe that's the cutoff date, so that excludes me. That it is now up to you, because if you look at the budget cuts that have hit the IEC, they're only going to be able to afford to do one registration weekend. And we all know that you need a couple of those just to get people's attention going. And his point is right. It's in our hands. Like with many things, this grouping or this population has had to take things in their own hands. How important, however, is it to equip young people with the right information? Perhaps education is the wrong word, but how important is it to equip them with the right information so they can make up their mind, firstly, about registering, and then eventually about who they want to vote for based on what platform?
It's critically important, and you're right. I mean, not to try to dumb it down and refer to it as education, we call it civic education and participation. A very much an active word that we do. So at the center of our work is exactly that: is engaging with young people in this way. Elections are coming up next year, of course, so that is something that's topical, and it is a hook, and it is a conversation starter. But at the center of our work is imparting or sharing very key civic education materials through partnerships that we have with Future Elect and various other organizations with these newly activated, newly registered individuals, so that they can A, make informed decisions when it comes to the ballot box, but B, they can demystify this long-standing myth that the only time that you as a citizen can hold the government accountable and either elect them in and out of office is during elections, and that's not true. There are various other measures in which we can hold elected officials, government officials, all those that serve at our behest as voters to account. So that is the work that we're trying to do, is to really impart civic education and materials that show young people and all South Africans that you can participate in democracy robustly, you can do so, and really just reject this myth that has been created by the political establishment at large, that you can only hold them accountable in elections. It's just not true. There are ward committees, there are ward war rooms, there are various Chapter 9 institutions, there's various institutions that exist in government, there are various mechanisms in which people in general can engage in order to hold elected officials accountable. And that is the work that we want to do. And at the hope, the kind of ultimate vision is that once we have done that and we've elevated the level of civic education that is very low in this country, that young people can themselves be empowered to seek out and create the changes that they want to see. Like, this might sound like rhetoric, but we've seen this happen across the world. The second those levels of education are elevated, even if slightly, and there's a populace that is taken along on that journey, they are the ones that can formulate and create whatever the political alternatives are that they want to see in the world. And we've seen that happen across the world, and we know that it's going to happen here as well.
How important is it for young people to start seeing themselves in the people in these political parties that they could potentially vote for? And I'm not talking about window dressing. Oh, look, we've got so many women. Oh, look, this person is under 40, we think. Or, and we're also heading into cringe season, where we're going to see much older politicians trying to dance to the latest Amapiano tune. Or I think the whole country cringed when Fikile and Balula started dabbing all of those years ago, when that was the in thing. When it comes to appealing to young people, to gaining their attention, what are you hearing on the ground as to what is the most important thing, other than just, the entertainment aspect, if we can call it that?
Yeah, you're very, very right, and that happens. I think young people increasingly are seeing through that, because they're seeing that all these theatrics and the performance is not equating to actual service. And I think there's an underestimation of the populace, especially young people, at how smart they are and how quickly they can see things that don't that don't serve them, and things that are inauthentic. I think authenticity is really, really key when you're presenting a political offer. To your first question about young people, I mean, we speak about representation all the time, and we speak about diversity, and we all, I think, have gotten to the understanding that diversity is super, super important, and not just diversity for diversity's sake, as you were saying, not just inserting people into positions, but empowering people, and especially young people, to contest for those positions that they seek, that they believe that they can have an impact, or a very lasting impact, for members of the community. And we have seen young people in political spaces excel, when given the opportunity and when not stifled. And when I say given opportunity, I don't mean to be patronizing. I mean, just allow the space to self-actualize and grow into the leaders that they are already and the leaders that they can be. So I think, yeah, diversity is really, really important. I think we've gotten to, as a nation, the realization that diversity, if it's just for diversity's sake and it's superficial and it's inauthentic, won't work. And I think young people increasingly are seeing through it. The other problem that we've also picked up with the theatrics and all these things, these empty promises that you're referring to, is that young people don't, or people in general, don't then go vote for somebody else. They just opt out entirely of the system because they don't see it serving them at all. And that is the problem. When that happens, we enter into serious questions of legitimacy around our democracy. When governments that are elected are not the government of the majority, contrary to the rhetoric, they are not. They represent a small subset of people that are voting, whereas the rest of the people are not voting. And that makes government illegitimate. And we've seen that happen across the world, in places like Venezuela, when a small grouping of people are making the decision. Everybody else is waking up and saying, wait, this government does not represent us. And that's a real serious problem. And I think everybody, civil society, political parties, everybody should be doing what they can to keep people engaged in the system, because democracy for us is worth protecting.
Look, let's just get the Springboks to tell people to go and vote, because it seems like they can do anything right now. Thank you so much for your insights.
That is a dream.
Sipho Dube is the Chief Strategy and Communications Officer at GWC, that's Groundwork Collective. And the presenter I was speaking about earlier is Dan Corder, a popular breakfast DJ who puts out some great TikToks, and the latest one talking about why it's important for young people to register to vote.